For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
All right.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Good evening and welcome to Alpena City Council meeting, February 15th, 2016. Call the roll, please.
Johnson? Here. Nielsen?
Here.
Nowak?
Here.
Sexton?
Here.
Walagora?
Here. Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any modifications to the agenda this evening? Approval of the minutes for regular session February 1st, 2016 and special session of February 4th, 2016, which was the IG meeting. Any issues or changes? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to discuss your concerns. This is the only time during the meeting, with the exception of any comment on the rec plan or the Brownfield for Target, which will be a separate public hearing. So if you have any other topic, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records. We have one. On the consent agenda this evening, bills to be allowed in the amount of $282,199.93.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you. No presentations, announcements, proclamation, down to public input. This is the 2016 to 2020 Alpena City Recreation Plan. I'll open public input session. And first off, a report by City Planning and Development Director Adam Paul.
Thank you. All right, the draft 2016-2020 Alpena City Rec Plan has been completed and up for review on our website for just almost 30 days, but not quite. Nico Tucker and Denise Klein of NEMCOG, among others, have been working diligently over the past several months to compile the data necessary for the various draft plan. City Planning Commission and the Recreation Advisory Board have met they met last Tuesday to review the plan, and they've had the rec plan. Both boards have been previously reviewed the draft as well. They did approve it unanimously at the meeting last Tuesday, and basically we are required to update this recreation plan every 5 years. We have a little bit of an interesting accelerated timetable here. We're trying to get this done before March 1st so we can be eligible for DNR grants this year, which is why we're having a public input session today and then a public hearing on the 25th. We want to make sure that we could get as much public comment as possible in regards to the rec plan. The rec plan that was available for review, we did meet Tuesday with the Planning Commission and the Recreation Board, and did make a few modifications in addition to a couple technical, we'll call them not typos, but a few modifications that were discovered. And there was also three elements that we wanted to make sure we pointed out and add to the plan. The first one, we wanted to add potential for the long-term park plan. We want to add a dog park somewhere in the rec plan. We wanted to make sure that was in there. There's been a lot of talk about it, and if we want to pursue grant funds for that project, we wanted to put it in. So we did put it into the Bayview Park. That's not necessarily a confirmed location, but that's just the first location that may have came to mind. But as long as it's in the plan, it could be eligible for grant funding. So another modification we made was in regards to the proposed RV park at Mission Key West. Obviously, we're still very much we're still very much in the feasibility. That's what I'm looking for. Looking at the feasibility of that, and we wanted to make sure we mentioned it in the rec plan. It's been in here previously, but you wouldn't know it by reading it. Basically, what happens with the Mission Key West and Starlight Beach Park is the future plans refer to the 2004 master plan that was conducted for those parks, which for anybody reading it from the public, they're already looking at the rec plan and they're referred to a different plan. It's kind of, it bounces you around. It's not the easiest thing to see all those documents. So what we did, we wanted to put in just a couple sentences stating that staff is at this point looking into the feasibility of putting an RV park at that location. Obviously, we are very early in the process and no thoughts or decisions have been determined, but we did want to make sure that that was there. So those are the modifications I think that were included that weren't necessarily part of the draft that you guys saw. But at that point, we'd love to open it to the public or whomever, and we'll get your thoughts out.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Don't go too far. Any public input on the rec plan? Any written comments or
No,
anything to the clerk's office? No? Perfect. So I'll close the public input and open it up for city council discussion. Anyone have any big
I
comments?
apologize, we're having technical issues, otherwise I'd have it up, but
Oh,
Yeah,
the whole document?
our wonderful,
that's the challenge. It really wouldn't show much. If you wanted to refer to a page, we could
Oh, I
show
see. I
the
see.
public that
Okay.
showed up to review it.
Just as a clarification for the public, just because you included the dog park, the RV park in the plan doesn't mean that those are
Absolutely,
solid
yes.
possibilities. They're just, that helps you get grant
If they're included in the rec
funding.
plan, that just means they're potentially, a project that could potentially occur over the next 5 years. And basically, we do this because we want to make sure that if we move forward with any of those projects, and again, I repeat if, that's so we can get the grant out that eligibility. So,
And I'll put you on the spot a little bit here, but what are a couple things that you're most excited about in the plan, and maybe what are a couple things you think will be a challenge?
well, as far as the next projects that we're gearing up for, the city of Alpena has been working with, actually Rotary's been working with the city, and they've been great partners, and they're really driving, moving forward with the proposed splash park. And that's another project that was in the master plan document. So we've been moving forward on that. Well, Rotary's been really taking the lead and doing well. And so we're hopefully going to be seeing that sooner rather than later. So in addition to that, there's been a lot of community talk just about the dog park and that kind of thing. And I think that's a fantastic project that's moving forward.
is the splash park specifically mentioned? It's not just by reference?
We'll have to.
Yes, we did, we included that in there.
Specifically, okay, good.
And Rich is
Yeah.
over. Sorry.
It basically references that the city is working with a local service group to accomplish it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll see that.
Okay, so as long as, that way it's clear, so if we do apply for funding for it, we can point to a specific part of the plan that it's in.
Adam, do you have any sponsors or people who would be interested in contributing to the dog park? Or any club in town that might?
There's a very preliminary group that has been, I think they've had one meeting regarding just getting elements put together, just getting costs, potential locations, things like that. So I guess I don't know offhand if we do, but I know that there is a group moving forward on that. So
Good, so there is interest, that's good,
absolutely.
thank you.
Well, I thought it was all encompassing and honestly didn't see anything that was missing or anything that I would have changed or added, so. it was-
Really, the significant changes that we did, because it's a 5-year update, is we accomplished a number of our goals and objectives, and so we were able to cross those off the list, and put a couple more on.
Right, great.
Just make it all happen.
Yeah, no, just make it happen, yeah.
Give me the money, we'll do it.
Well, lots of great work,
Give us a
Adam. I guess we'll see you again on the 25th with this.
And I appreciate you guys coming a few minutes early, just so we can get that hammered out and not keep everybody.
And that's at 5:45?
5:45 is the
Here,
public hearing.
on the
Here.
25th? Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, next up, public hearing on the Brownfield plan for Target Alpena, former Alpena Power Company property. Open the public hearing, and we'll have a report from the city manager.
Okay, over the past several months, during 2015, the city, Target Alpena, and Alpena Power Company cooperated on a plan for the eventual redevelopment of the vacant APC building located at 2nd Avenue and Water Street downtown. Ultimately, we did reach an agreement whereby the city would apply for a grant to assist in the demolition of the building. APC would donate the property to Target Alpena and provide funds to Target that would serve as the local match for the grant, and Target Alpena would market the cleared development-ready parcel for redevelopment. Additionally, the city agreed to sell to Target additional property at the rear of the building to make the site more desirable for redevelopment. In the end, the city was awarded a grant for $245,000 from MISTA and the Michigan Land Bank, and with $65,000 from Alpena Power Company, a total of $310,000 was committed toward the demolition of the property. On January 7th of this year, the three-way transaction was executed and the project was now in a position to move forward. Prior to any demolition, the state requires that a lead and asbestos survey be completed as well as a Phase 1 environmental site assessment. The cost of these activities is eligible under the grant, and the activities were completed last year. The Phase 1 ESA found several recognizable environmental conditions that would require detailed evaluation, including soil borings and groundwater testing, thereby necessitating a Phase 2 ESA. Unfortunately, those costs of a Phase 2 and any follow-up BEA and a due care plan are not covered under the grant. Consequently, Target approached the city to see if we could assist them by utilizing our Brownfield Authority Site Remediation Fund. Normally, these activities would be reimbursed through a Brownfield TIF, whereby we capture the tax on the value of the improvements above what the base value is of the property. However, in discussions with Target, it was generally agreed that we would like to see the property redeveloped without the burden of a TIF tax capture that could take a period of 5 to 10 years. And that during that time, of course, the money would be captured, paid back for the costs, for those costs, and to Target. And in the meantime, the taxing jurisdictions, which would include the DDA, would not have access to those funds. Consequently, as the Alpena area or Alpena Authority for Brownfield Redevelopment Executive Director, I'm recommending that we utilize the authority's local site remediation revolving fund to cover these costs, as we've done previously for the Beach Motel demolition, and also for the, when we assisted the development of the Austin Brothers Beer Company. The eligible activities would include a Phase 2 environmental site assessment, a baseline environmental assessment, a due care plan, and then environmental site remediation if necessary. Normally, these activities would not be authorized to commence until the use of the funds have been officially approved by both the Brownfield Board and City Council. However, state law requires that a BEA, in order to be valid, must be filed with the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality within 45 days of purchase of the property, resulting in the need to complete the environmental activities except remediation by February 21st. This necessitated soliciting proposals, awarding a contract, and commencing the ESA as quickly as possible. As of today, the on-site work has been completed by the selected environmental consultant, Otwell Mobby, who you should be familiar with. They've worked with us for a number of years now on several different brownfield projects. And a lab analysis and report preparation is currently in progress, and they have assured us that they will be done within that 45-day window. I don't know if we haven't received anything yet, Adam, have we, from them? No. Okay. We still have another week on that. All of these activities are eligible under the Brownfield Redevelopment Act, PA 381 of 96, and may be funded utilizing the authority's remediation fund. The fund was established by the city's Brownfield Authority utilizing tax capture from previous Brownfield TIFs once all other eligible activities included in a project's Brownfield plan had been paid. Over the past several years, local tax capture from the NOAA, the Alpena Mark Brownfield plan, and the Lafarge Brownfield TIF have been placed in the remediation fund for future use by the authority. This fund allows the Brownfield Board and the council to act expeditiously on requests that will benefit the community by assisting in the redevelopment of brownfield sites without having to apply for state or federal grant funding and incurring the time lags inherent in the application process. All such requests to utilize the site remediation fund are reviewed and acted upon on a case-by-case basis. We currently, within the fund, have $137,269, with an additional $63,167 that will be deposited in March, which is the final payment from the Lafarge Brownfield TIF. That TIF expired at the end of last year. So these are the winter taxes from last year. The NOAA TIF that we had also been utilizing funds from, that expired at the end of 14. So by now, both of those primary sources of funding for the remediation fund are gone. But with that additional, we'll have just over $200,000 in the fund. To access the funds and to use them to pay for eligible activities, we are required to develop a brownfield plan that then must be, that outlines what activities are going to be done, what their estimated costs are, and then that must be approved by both the authority and the council. We also have to notify all the taxing jurisdictions and allow them to show up as well. I think it's probably safe to say nobody is here, because in this case, there is no impact on any taxing jurisdictions. We're not doing a brownfield TIF. All we're doing is utilizing money we already have. So there's no impact on any taxing jurisdiction. We did send it to all the taxing jurisdictions by certified mail. We also published in the paper on February 4th. The plan itself calls for a maximum expenditure of $43,810, including $10,000 for contingency. All estimates are on the conservative side to ensure that sufficient funds are available. Now, I would have a nice chart showing you all those costs that you can see, except we've had, due to technical difficulties, our projector is not working very well, and so it's not there. So you'll just have to, you have it before you, the rest of you will just have to believe what I say, I guess. Trust me, I'm the government, so.
Why did they laugh, Greg?
You can trust me. The Phase 2 ESA, the BEA, and the Due Care Plan will be paid as a direct grant. So we will pay for those, we'll get the bills from Otwell Mobby, we'll pay them for that. If site remediation is needed, and we had set aside $20,000 for that, out of the, I think we had about $23,000 or so, no, it was less than that. Yeah. Oh, I guess I should look at the plan. We had just over $13,000, just $13,800 actually, for the Phase 2, the BEA, and the Due Care Plan. Another $20,000 set aside if remediation was needed, and a $10,000 contingency. If we do need to do any remediation, that will be as a loan that we will then execute with the identified liable party at the time. That should be determined during the course of the Phase 2 and the BEA. Target and the Brownfield Authority have already executed a development grant and loan agreement, as we do with all of our projects, so everybody knows what their responsibilities are and how payments are made. The board met on Wednesday, January 27th, to discuss the plan, and they, at that time, unanimously approved the plan with the recommendation to send it on to council and recommending approval to council as well. There was one abstention, which was Jim Clerk, since he represents Target on the board and Target is the applicant, so he abstained. So it was a 4-0 vote with the one abstention. You have before you the plan and also a copy of the resolution approved by Target, and you also have Council Resolution 2016-02, which we would ask if you concur with the Brownfield Authority's recommendation that you adopt that. Once you do, then we are authorized to spend the money out of, up to that limit out of the fund.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. Open to public comment. Anyone? Any written comment? Close the public comment, open it up for city council discussion. If there is any.
I would just thank you for finding a little bit of a creative way to do this that works out best for everybody, and using the funds we have and not impacting our tax jurisdictions. So.
Great. Now, we have before us Resolution 2016-02, resolution approving the Target Alpena, former Alpena Power Company property brownfield plan for the city of Alpena.
Move to adopt resolution number 2016-02, approving the Target Alpena, formerly Alpena Brownfield property.
Second.
Noah?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Johnson? Nielsen?
Yes.
Thank you, Greg, and Adam, and Jim, and everyone else. Report of officers tonight. A is proposed amendment to the Thunder Bay Transportation Authority Articles of Incorporation.
Okay, Thunder Bay Transportation Authority, its Articles of Incorporation clearly spell out the qualifications for board member candidates. All board members must reside within the TBTA service area, which currently comprises Alpena, Alcona, Montmorency counties, and a small portion of Presque County. TBTA currently has one non-governmental vacancy on the board. When I say non-governmental, there are 7 members on the board. 4 are what are called incorporating members. They were the 4 governmental units that created the authority, and that was the 3 counties, Alpena, Alcona, Montmorency, and the city. Then there are 3, I often call them at-large, that are then, they must represent certain criteria listed in the Articles of Incorporation as far as representing certain clientele categories. And then those are appointed by the incorporating members. Those particular ones, they're required to reside in the jurisdiction as well. Right now, we have a prospective highly qualified individual that has expressed a strong interest in serving on the board and has been interviewed by the personnel committee of the authority, and who also strongly recommends the individual. The problem is, she lives outside of the service area but works within it. And her work is such that it fits very closely in with the purpose and function of TBTA and the various criteria. Consequently, the board has discussed and is recommending that there be a change in the Articles of Incorporation. In Article 9, Paragraph 3, by allowing the additional non-governmental board members to only those 3 to either reside or work. The actual language will state, it's added language, says members of the board must be at least 18 years of age and residents of Thunder Bay service area. And then the added language is with exception to those 3 additional board members appointed by the incorporating board members, which do not have to be residents of Thunder Bay service area if they are employed in the Thunder Bay service area. So that would be the change. Pursuant to Article 12 of the Articles of Incorporation, any proposed amendment must be approved by a 2/3 vote of the entire TBTA board, which it was. It was approved by a vote of 5-0. We had 1 absent, and of course, we have a vacancy. With the concurrence of the incorporating bodies. So I now, this language has been sent to all our board members from each of the jurisdictions, and they'll be taking them to their boards this month to ask for approval, which is what I'm doing here today. So if you approve, basically the resolution that's on the back, or on the next page, that would be that step. We then, our attorney would then file that change with the state as an amendment to our Articles of Incorporation.
Joe doesn't see any, you don't have any issues with that?
I do not.
Greg, I understand the rationale to get a good quality person, qualified person in there. Guess I get leery about changing articles of incorporation to essentially hire a specific person. And that's not, I guess you kind of weighed in on that. That's not any kind of issue to do that for a hire.
It is not.
You know, it did come up because of this individual, but it could come up on others as well. And as I can't remember who I was talking to on the phone this afternoon, but it doesn't mean that automatically that because you meet one of those criteria that you will be appointed to the board by the others. That simply means if you don't meet one of these, you can't serve. But then we look at the candidates, the last few times we've had them, we've had, you know, a pool of 2 to 3 or 4 individuals who generally they interview and then determine who is the best, you know, fit. So it is not, it doesn't mean you would automatically be approved. They did interview this person. I'm not sure if it came out later that, or for whatever reason, you know, in terms of where she lived. But, I mean, it should have been on the application, so I assume it was there. But I see it as a long-term, that it's, just gives them a little more flexibility in terms of candidates.
Out of curiosity, how old are these? How old is the
Original
initial
articles.
article?
2006, I believe, was when it was, the authority was created by the merger of our Dial-A-Ride and Thunder Bay Transportation Corporation.
And I kind of see it as the same as some things that have changed for people on our boards. We've changed a couple. I can't think of which one was last right off the top of my head, but just since I've been here, we've changed one of the articles of our boards to allow somebody that doesn't live within the
Well,
city limits to sit on the board.
The Wildlife Sanctuary Board, since I've been here, I've proposed, and the council, various councils have supported, probably 2 or 3 changes in the requirements in terms of membership, because we found initially everybody had to reside within the city, and we found it was difficult. We weren't finding the interest. Those who were really interested weren't within the city. And so we've continued to modify it, because the opinion was at that point that it's more important to get people who are really passionate about it and have an interest than it is whether they live in the city or not in the city. We do require a certain number, but it's actually a minority that are required. So we've modified that one several times to get a mix that worked.
Right. Any other issues?
No, I think it's good, it makes sense.
You don't want us to,
Makes sense.
Is there a resolution?
You can just do it as a motion.
I move we approve the amendment to the TBA Articles of Incorporation.
Second.
Sexton,
Yes.
Walagora,
aye?
Johnson, Nielsen,
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
Greg. Next up, city treasurer's quarterly financial report, October 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2015.
This report takes us about halfway through our fiscal year, and we should be about 50%. Hopefully revenue's a little higher and expenses are a little lower. Our revenue actually ended up being about 61.2%, and that's probably because of the property taxes, which are 95% of our revenue. And we received in 95% of it, I should say. So that's very good. We also received our first reimbursement for the loss of personal property tax revenue. We received that last fall. It's about $70,000. Unfortunately, we still don't know how much we're being reimbursed for. Everything's being phased in by the state, starting with at 2014, and then certain personal property were under 80,000 were exempt in 14, and then poor Jeff has to keep track of all these things, and so then now other industrial things will be coming off, personal property. So we still don't know yet. We're not on any regular schedule to receive revenue, but at least we did get some. And the state has requested to receive the reimbursement as a local community stabilization share appropriation. So you will see a line in the budget, and the public, if they want to see that out on the website, you will see right where it is in the budget, because that's what it's called. So that's our personal property reimbursement. So, and overall expenditures are at about 47.5% of budget. But there are areas in some of the departments that we're struggling to stay, I guess, around 50%, and those are things like repairs that we haven't planned for, or maintenance, supplies, overtime, things that come up. So we're really trying to watch our budgets. The department heads are working on their budgets right now. We'll get together end of March, beginning of April to have sessions and start pulling together the budget for next year. Then I wanted to point out to you on the back of your financial report, this is the list of all of the city funds. Just so you notice that water and sewer are both higher than the last 2 years. So that's good, so that we can start, as we hoped, building that up to start getting some infrastructure projects going. So that kind of gives you an idea on that. And then just as I was reviewing the budget, I realized how fortunate we are, because so many times our economic, times are not that good, and yet we have fantastic volunteers. The Garden Club, Mike and Jaworski have given us jewels for this city. And then also, the Rotary Club and Zonta have helped us too. So we're very fortunate in that sometimes when we don't have the money, a lot of our Alpena residents step up. So I was grateful for that when I was going through the budget. Are there any questions on?
I would also say I'm grateful that staff usually finds grant opportunities and other ways to pay for things. Karen, I can't pick up anything, but is there anything that's alarming to you at all, or is pretty much what you're expecting at this point?
Yeah, there wasn't anything alarming that worried me, just that we have to be careful. The department heads, just letting them know where they're at in their budget, be careful. I mean, if you've only got a little bit of money left, you've got 6 more months to make it last. So this is the time we start scrambling a little bit.
Why is that negative?
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah, because it shouldn't be. Off the top of Karen, or Julie.
She said,
It should be.
Anything? I'm sorry, I was just looking at something. Excellent, great report.
okay,
Thank you, Karen.
you're welcome.
Can you receive file or anything like that, or no?
Yes, please.
I move we receive and file.
Walagora?
Aye.
Johnson? Nielsen?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes. Is that on the website, the quarterly reports? Or
It
not?
will be, yes.
Okay.
This.
Yes, we have been
like
putting
that?
them on there.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's a great format.
Yeah, it won't be yet, but it'll be, I'll let Vicki know tomorrow. That's what I usually do.
All right, next up, letter of credit for the US 23 North Property Wetlands Mitigation.
Well, I can't find the memo that I had right here, but that's the letter of credit that we need to get the DEQ going on the wetlands. We talked about that on the US 23 North. So, thank you. So it's $150,000. It'll come right out of our account, and what it'll do is get set aside for a year, as they're requiring us to do, in case anything comes up where they have to pull some of that money. And so it's gonna be $1,500 to have that letter of credit. That's what's gonna cost us per year. But we're assuming it's just gonna be a 1-year letter of credit. So they would like us to have a formal approval of that and authorize the mayor and I to sign for that.
So what would come up that they would need to tap into that?
Oh, what was it? Yeah.
Yeah, Rich can explain that.
Basically, what it was, in the draft permit that was issued, there's a number of stipulations. We have to do a short-term and a long-term management plan. We have to record legal easements and descriptions for those properties. What this money does is it's set aside so that, because basically, once they sign off on the permit, I could fire up the bulldozers and do the work. They wanted to have a mechanism so that I couldn't just do the work and say, too bad. So it's just, if we don't fulfill an obligation of the permit requirement, they do have the ability to access that letter of credit, to have the work done, to go against those costs going against that letter of credit.
And they mentioned that, and that's the stipulations when Rich presented it.
Those are things well within our control.
Right. Yeah, and well, hopefully in about 6 months or whatever, we could have those complete sometime mid or end of the summer, then that letter of credit can be released, and it will no longer be held, against,
The legal descriptions are basically done. The only thing that's gonna delay it is the short and long-term management plan, because we have to wait till summer so that they get in there and figure out
do an
what
inventory.
flora and fauna and toads and rabbits and bunnies and
How many box springs are in there?
You gotta have somebody look. Here comes the Sean. We approve the purchase of a letter of credit, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign on the city tab.
Second.
Johnson? Nielsen?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye. Thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
Let's see, no communications, no unfinished business, one new business, plumbing and mechanical inspections. Don Gilmet.
Good evening. Since the meeting's going so fast, I'd like to give you a brief history of plumbing in the state of Michigan since 1926. Just kidding.
It doesn't always work.
Currently, the Michigan plumbing and mechanical codes in the city are administered and enforced by the state of Michigan through the Bureau of Construction Code. As the state's been going through the similar budgetary issues that the city has, they've consolidated all their inspectors into areas that encompass anywhere from 13 to 26 counties. And so that doesn't bode well for contractors or homeowners, as you know, Matt, from trying to get an inspection. So, previous councils, we talked about this back in 2011 when we got the electrical inspector. That's worked very well. And basically, that's what we want to do with plumbing and mechanical. When we took over the electrical permitting and inspection from the state, it was the same thing. The poor guy came out of the UP, had Alpena, 13 lower counties, and so you might wait a week, you might wait 2 weeks, and it just didn't work. But not only did the inspections start faster, and you call and you get it that day or the next day, but as some of you that have been on council a while know, when I was reporting those actual savings, there was tens of thousands of dollars of savings just in the permit fee. And I expect that we would have the same thing by having our own plumbing and mechanical inspector. The thing that has taken so long was the getting the state's permission for them to give up something that was a revenue generator for them was very onerous. And that was due to, so administrators down there saying, well, I think the law means this. Well, since 2011, someone's informed them that no, the law means just what it says. And the process to get it is very simple. We fill out an application, we pass an ordinance that I will work with the city attorney, assuming that we're given permission to go ahead. We send that down to them, and then as soon as that's published in the paper through our normal process, we can start doing it. I would like to start doing it around the 1st of July in conjunction with the new budget year, and then that would also allow me time to advertise advertise and find a, it would be a subcontract position, similar to what we do with Frank, so there'd be no legacy costs, it'd be, in the ballpark of an 80-20 split. So we would get a little bit more than enough money to cover the paperwork and the paper for printing the permits. And the other big thing with it is right now, if someone changes out a furnace or water heater or redoes their plumbing in their house, we have no knowledge unless they happen to pull the building permit. So that myself and Mr. Kalaszewski's over there doing that inspection, and we see it and we can record that. The city spent a lot of money on computer systems to track these things so that even the residents can go online and look at the progress of their permit. So plumbing and mechanical was all a gray area that we had no knowledge of. They'd never stop in and say hello or, give you a list saying we were at these 5 houses today. And even though I've requested that over the years, they just don't have time to do it. So, it's just basically, it's a win-win for everybody. And I'm sure that the cost will, right now, what did you pay, $165 or $175?
$175.
Water heater.
$175.
It's the same thing if you want to put a new toilet in your house, it's $165. I think that we could probably do it for a little cheaper than that and get it inspected. So it keeps everybody on board. And when you have local inspection, the permits go up right away, because right now what you have is people don't want to pay, not only because of the cost, but because of the fact they never see anybody come and do an inspection. In a lot of cases, I wouldn't say that all the time, but in the thing of a water heater or a toilet, so they just don't do it and they don't get the inspections. And so to me, it's just a win-win, and therefore I would ask that council authorize us to proceed down this road. Is there anybody have any questions about?
You don't think you'll have the same difficulties this time as we did with the electrical inspections?
I know that I won't. I was in Lansing.
They learned their lesson last time, right?
Well, no, and I looked online and I saw the application was changed. And I observed things when I was in Lansing, and so I made a couple phone calls, and things have changed. So the governor put together, through Laura, the local units of government reinventing, how can we do things better? And this I'm assuming, is a part of that process. They studied that for about 2 years and took input from people. And we had legislators on our side, like Picatellia and Mehoff, from the Senate. And, they pushed just, you guys can't provide a service. Why in the world would you let the local branch of government do it just the way that the law was passed in 99? And, the building codes always started out with the building official is the boss. And then when the state made state building codes, it's like, well, okay, the building official could be the boss of the buildings unless we're looking at something. And it just convoluted everything. This is just going to be much better for everybody moving forward.
Thank you.
I can personally attest to that, as Don mentioned. Everything he said is true.
Hey, did you want to know about the plumbing code
this-
for 26?
Yep, please. Yeah, the state cashed my check sometime in December, and I still haven't seen anyone. So it's just, it's just gone. So I think it's a great plan. It's good that Don was on top of that, and it's nice of the state to allow us to do it. So I think we should, my perspective, we should jump on it, get it done as soon as possible
Right.
before someone changes their mind. So you just need permission to proceed?
Well, you want a new ordinance, right? New ordinance
Yeah, but
language.
right now he's
Well,
just asking for
yeah,
permission
we'll bring that
to
back.
proceed to that,
Okay.
to draft an ordinance.
We allow the building inspector to work with the city attorney to draft a new ordinance for local inspection.
Second. I was just waiting for somebody else. I want to see my.
I'm gonna give it to Cindy this
Yeah,
time.
Who's
no.
on first?
Nielsen,
Yes.
Nowak,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Walagora.
Aye.
Johnson.
Move we adjourn.
You are watching All About Alpena.